Hello and welcome to our new reading session. This is part 2 of the story Goodbye to the Moon. By the end of this session, you should be able to. And of course, this is the story cover, and on the story cover, you can see or read the story title, um, the author, the illustrator, the genre, and you can see also a space shuttle, or it is called in the story a space ferry. Okay, so we are going to start here from page 276. We are going to read from here. So let me see. Each Earth Day. So he was in the previous week. We have read about this, and he was talking about the day when the sun shines on the moon and it starts heating up everything, and this is why the cooling system works in the buildings in the crater where all the buildings of people are. So he continues talking about the day. So we would say each Earth day a little closer until finally the 2 long weeks of night. So night lasts 2 weeks and day lasts 2 weeks also. The 2 long weeks of night were over and we were bathed in sunlight again for also other 2 weeks. The astronomers hated daytime except for the solar experts. The solar experts are these people who work on the solar power and maybe develop some solar panels or something. I put here a picture for you for these people. This is a real picture of a scientist working in the International Space Station with doing experiments, of course. The astronomers hated daylight except for the solar experts. They couldn't see the stars. Who are they? The astronomers, okay? They couldn't see the stars and had to stay in their rooms catching up on their paperwork. These are the scientists. But everyone else loved it, especially the kids. So everybody is going to love the day, of course, instead of the night. I sighed and thought of Anne. So who's Anne? We're gonna know. Wonder who'd be taking her to the party. So they were going to a party, and he was going to take Anne to the party. But now, since he's leaving the moon and going to Earth, somebody else is going to take her. We'd stood at the airlock. So what is the airlock? These chambers or this one. When you move from one place which is hot, for example, or has low oxygen level, and going inside another room or another building with air that is air conditioned and has a lot of oxygen supplies, of course, on the moon. We stood at the airlock to say goodbye. So he and Anne had been crying, and her eyes were red. But she was as beautiful as ever. There had been an awful lump in my throat. This is when you feel something in your throat and you cannot talk. As I blurted out the words, as he said the words, stuttering the words, the goodbye that they did. Sorry, the goodbye that they had. Okay, now he's saying, I'll be seeing you, Anne. Oh, Kepler, take care of yourself. Of course, this is Anne. Sure, you too, Anne. I'll write, I promise. Now he's going to write letters to Anne. Very well. They are in the space on the moon, and they're still going to write letters. What about the messages and WhatsApp and anything? It was a terrible farewell. So what the meaning of farewell means? A goodbye ceremony. I'd worked out ahead of time exactly what I was going to say. So he practiced, work out ahead of time what he's going to say means he practiced what is he going to say. It was terrific what he prepared. It have bowled her over. Bowled her over. I didn't write it here, but it means surprise her. But standing there by the airlock, I'd forgotten it all. So he didn't say anything of what he had or had prepared. I squirmed at the memory and hoped that Anne wouldn't remember and laugh. Okay, what is the meaning of squirmed? Squirmed means wriggle. Squirm means wriggle or twist the body from side to side. So he was just standing, moving and fidgeting around. Okay. At the memory and hoped that Anne wouldn't remember and laugh. Well, at least I could write. I knew I couldn't expect letters from Anne, so I think this is something that uh, the author didn't work on very well because he's talking about letters while they are there on the moon. Maybe they can signals or signal or send, like we now send many these messages and have phone calls and not only phone calls, video calls also. Okay, so I knew I couldn't expect letters from Anne. Letter rates to Earth were crippling. So what is the meaning of crippling? Destroying. So means that it was very unexpected or very expensive maybe to send letters to Earth. So was the cost of everything that had to make the 250,000 mile hole. So this distance between the moon and the Earth, everything that they send from Earth or to Earth is costly. But I could write to Anne. That was one advantage of having the lunar government as father, because his father is the lunar government. What is this advantage? I could slip my letters into the diplomatic bag. So what is the diplomatic bag? It's a special bag for diplomatic or official mail. So he said that this is an advantage. My father is the governor, so I can put my letters to Anne in his bag. And this, of course, will not cost anything and is going to go to the moon. And they will go rocketing to moon with no questions asked. But 6 months away from home. So only he's going to spend 6 months on Earth. Okay, and the home here means moon. I was going to miss her. He's going to miss Anne. That was the disadvantage of having a governor for father. So in this paragraph, you have one advantage of having the lunar governor as father, which is sending letters in the diplomatic bag, and another disadvantage for having the governor as father, which is he's going to spend 6 months away from his friend. The door swung open. Swing means move hastily. Open behind me, letting in a shaft of light. Shaft like breath, air, breeze, and a babble of excited voices. Babble means someone who talks. The sound of murmuring sound. People who talk. There was a waft of exotic perfume. Waft means we said before that this is the sound or the smell that moving in the air. Exotic means foreign, not familiar. Real French perfume. Real French perfume means from Earth. The ferry from Earth must have arrived. So the ferry means the space shuttle. So people come from Earth to visit the moon. It's like they are visitors or tourists. Okay, they go on trips to the moon, and they have And if you look in your book, you're going to see this page of these people who are coming from Earth, and they have these fancy hairstyles, while he, Kepler, who is a moon guy, he's normal. His hair is normal, and what he's wearing is looks normal. Okay, so the ferry from Earth must have arrived. These would be passengers on moon safari. This was so. What is the meaning of safari? Safari means, of course, this is on Earth. Or not. I didn't find any image of moon safari. Okay, this was a trip only for the very, very wealthy. So these people were very, very wealthy. Of course, it's gonna be very expensive. In fact, the tourist complex yes, on wealthy. Oh yes, sorry. In fact, the tourist complex on the Sea of Serenity helped pay for some of the research expenses that the Moon administration was unable to wring from the reluctant cash box of Earth. So, the tourist complex means the area where the tourist buildings and the things that they do on the moon. Okay, on the Sea of Serenity, this is a place on the moon also. Help it pay for some of the research expenses. So the costs were very high, and they took this money to pay for the experiments that they do on the moon. And of course, we have here the reluctant means that the cash box. This is a cash box, and reluctant means that they refuse all the time on Earth. They refuse to give the money to the um, for the experiments on the moon. I slipped out of the suddenly crowded room, so he doesn't like crowds. He's going to suffer on Earth. And down the passage to the central concourse. What is the concourse? It's an area in front or inside the building, a large area. Father was standing there. There were last minute goodbyes. Goodbye, George. So this is his father's name. We're counting on you, Governor. So counting on you means that he's going to the Earth for in a mission to do something very important. See you in 6 months. This is their time on Earth uh, at the latest. Okay, I walked beside him, trying to copy his casual stroll. The stroll is walking in leisurely way, like casual, not formally. I wasn't about to look like some country rube. What is the meaning of rube? Naive person, right? Like someone who comes from the country and going to the big city, so he would look like a rube. Even if it was my first Earth trip. But my first sight of the Earth fairy threw me, and my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped means his mouth was open. It was magnificent. This is the Earth's fairy. It was magnificent, 3 times as big as our beat up old moon fairies, with their huge cargo holds and dingy, cramped passenger quarters. Dingy means damp and not bright. Yet we had to endure the lunar trip for 3 long days, and this was only going to take about 3 hours. So they took from the moon to the space station. They took 3 days in this very bad moon ferry, and but this very huge and magnificent Earth ferry is going to take them only in 3 hours. Of course, this is very well equipped because it takes passengers. These very very expensive, sorry, very wealthy people. Okay, is everything on Earth this fancy? This like wonderful? I whispered to father as I snuggled down. Snuggle means to make yourself warm and cozy into the deep plush of my contour seat. So this is the contour seat. And bulked my harness around me, like the harness, like the seat belt, but more than one belt. Okay, to fasten him in the chair. Pretty much so. In the parts of the world you'll be seeing anyway, of course, because on Earth there are people who are wealthy and wealthy countries and developed countries and other miserable places. It's a far cry from home, isn't it? Was it ever? I tried to imagine our living unit with a deep blue pile carpet, stippled with gold, and instead of the standard issue green vinyl floor. Vinyl means like this carpet that we put, but it is made of plastic. Okay, green vinyl floor and plastic coated steel walls. So all of their life is coated and um, furnished with plastic things. When I was a kid, I was always roaming into the wrong unit. They were all identical because they are all the same, and there just wasn't the money to ferry up to bring more fantastic things. Thank you so much. I hope that this part is easier than the first part, and I want everyone to read the next two pages. Thank you and goodbye.